Once variables are defined and relationships are hypothesized, the next step is to develop a research design. Now, this design acts as a blueprint for the entire study. A research design outlines how the research question will be investigated, what methods will be used for it, how participants will be selected, how the data will be collected and analyzed, and how bias and error will be minimized. So, different types of designs are used depending on the objective that we have. Experimental designs involve manipulation of variables and random assignment. There are correlational designs which examine the strength and direction of relationships between the variables. Then there's a survey design which gathers large-scale data using questionnaires. There's case study designs which focus on in-depth analysis of a single individual or a very small group. So there's plenty of designs that we can use. A well-crafted research design includes sampling strategy, which means whether you're going to randomly sample it or you're going to break them down into groups and then sample from it in a stratified manner. Then there's what measurement tools you're going to be using, what are the ethical considerations you're going to be using, what's the timeline that you're going to use, how are you going to manage the logistics of it. So that research design should maximize internal and external validity, control extraneous variables, and allow the hypothesis to be tested clearly and effectively. Constructing devices for observation and measurement is another thing that we need to look at in this particular aspect. Once the research design is finalized, the researcher must choose or create tools to measure the variables in the study. Some of the common psychological tools that are used so far are questionnaires and surveys. Then there are interview schedules, there's standardized tests that are used, observational checklists, physiological measurements using instruments, all of these are used. And if there is no existing tool available for what you're trying to measure, the researcher might need to develop a new one. This would involve creating items or questions or a specific questionnaire just for that particular purpose, or once the research questionnaire is done, then we would need to do a pre-testing of that particular instrument, that particular questionnaire, to see how effective it is, ensuring reliability, which means that using that questionnaire provides you the same consistent results no matter how many times you use it and on how many people, and the validity, which means making sure that you are measuring exactly what you intend to measure and it's not just something else. So this step ensures that data collection is systematic, standardized, and scientifically sound. Then there's the aspect of sample selection and data collection. So at this point, the researcher determines who will participate in the study and how the data will be gathered. The sample should be representative of the target population and selected using a method that minimizes bias. Some of the sampling methods that are regularly used are random sampling, where each member of the population has an equal chance of being selected, which means we're taking the whole population and we're picking from there. Then there's stratified sampling, where the population is divided into subgroups, and then from the subgroups you have sampling done. There's convenience sampling, which is based on accessibility, so you conveniently sample based on how many people you have access to or how many people you can get in touch with. So that's convenience sampling. Data collection methods may vary by design and may involve surveys and questionnaires, which are useful for large groups. They may involve interviews, which are useful for in-depth information. Then there are naturalistic observations, where the psychologist watches their subjects of interest in their natural environment to see what they're doing and make observations. There are also experiments that can be done where you take a sterile environment, you're controlling all the other variables and making sure that only the variables that you want to study can be manipulated. There are no extraneous variables affecting the study. So lots of aspects here. And during this phase, researchers also plan the recruitment and training of data collectors. They have to schedule the sessions in which this data collection occurs. They have to ensure that ethical practices such as informed consent and confidentiality are adhered to. They have to manage the data storage and ensure that it's stored in a safe manner. It protects the identity of the people who've given the information and can be accessed securely. All these aspects have to be considered when you're doing this step. Now, the fifth step is data analysis and interpretation. So now we've just figured out how to collect our information and how to store it. So once you've decided what you need to study, created a hypothesis, decided on what is the operational definition of the terms that you're going to be studying, and created tools, either used existing tools or created new tools in using which you're going to measure it, and you've collected all of your data by either doing a random sampling or stratified, or you've done convenient sampling, whatever. So now you've got your data in your hand. The next step is to analyze the data. So once it's collected, that data must be organized, analyzed, and interpreted to make sense of the results. Data analysis involves editing and cleaning the data and removing incomplete or faulty responses from the entire stack that you have. You need to code the responses, especially if you're using qualitative data. So when you say coding the responses, if it's quantitative data, which is you can quantify it in terms of numbers and the number of times it's occurred or something like that, that's easy. Qualitative data needs to be coded so that you can convert it into something that can be measured. And then you have to use statistical software to run the tests. There are different levels of statistical analysis. There's univariate analysis, which looks at one variable and one variable only, such as the mean or the median or the frequency. There's bivariate analysis, which compares two variables, such as correlation and the t-test. Then there's multivariate analysis, which explores more than two variables simultaneously, which is regression or factor analysis. Statistical testing actually helps researchers to determine whether the results are statistically significant, and then based on that result that you get, you can accept or reject the null hypothesis. And then once you accept or reject the hypothesis, you can generalize the findings to a larger population if it's appropriate. Interpretation would mean connecting the results back to the hypothesis, examining what the findings mean in practical and theoretical terms, and discussing any limitations. Step 6 would be to draw conclusions. Now this step involves synthesizing the findings of the analysis to draw logical conclusions. The researcher must confirm whether the hypothesis was supported or rejected, and the researcher must discuss the implications of the theory and practice, and also acknowledge any limitations in the study, such as they used a small sample, or there was lack of control, or the sampling was done conveniently. Whatever aspects are there, they should be honest about it, and also provide suggestions for future directions of research. That is, if somebody else wants to build upon the research that has already been done, then what future direction that research could take is also something they should include. A well-drawn conclusion contributes meaningfully to the existing knowledge base and provides actionable insight for educators, clinicians, or policymakers. Now, step 7 would be preparation of report and the publication of that report. The final step in research process is to communicate the findings through a clear, comprehensive research report. A standard psychological research report would include a title and abstract, which is just a concise summary of the research. It will include an introduction, which provides the background, a problem statement, literature review, and the hypothesis. It will provide the method, which is what are the participants like, what tools and procedures are going to be used, and how is the research designed. It will then provide the result in tables and charts and in statistical findings. And then there will be a discussion section in there, which provides the interpretation, the implications of the findings, the limitations of the research, and the future uses of the research. There will also be references which include proper citations of APA or other appropriate formats, that is, all the other reviews of literature that has been done in order to publish this paper or create the paper. And then publishing the report in peer-reviewed journals, which allows other researchers to replicate or build upon their study. The public and professionals to learn from the findings. It allows them to learn from the findings. And then it also helps the field of psychology to evolve with new evidence. So in conclusion, the research process in psychology is a very rigorous evidence-based pathway from idea to insight, where each step is very carefully done so that there is no contamination that occurs, and as far as possible, all external environments and all external elements that could impact and affect the study has been removed, and at every point scientific rigor has been used so that operationally it's defined, the hypothesis statement is done, you're deciding what variables you're going to measure, you're trying as far as possible to take a random sample so that the result that comes can be used on a larger public than confined to smaller studies. There's so many rigorous aspects that you're going through when you're doing a scientific research, whether it's defining the problem, collecting the data, publishing the findings. All of these have structure, and there's clarity and there's integrity when you're doing the investigation. Following the 7 steps ensures that research is scientifically valid, that it's logically consistent, that it's ethically conducted, it's socially relevant. So for students, practitioners, and psychologists and scholars alike, mastering this process is essential to becoming a thoughtful, ethical, and impactful contributor to the discipline of psychology.